Beyond the law of attraction, the architecture of coherence. Right now, in this moment, an extraordinary amount of information surrounds you. Light from every direction, sound from near and far, temperature on the skin, subtle emotional signals from other people, movement, color, language, memory, expectation. Traces of what has happened before. The subtle signatures left by other humans. The environment is alive with information. And yet, only a tiny portion of that vast stream is actually entering your awareness. The human sensory system receives millions of pieces of information every second. Yet conscious awareness can hold only a very small portion of that stream. At any moment, a person is consciously aware of only 30 to 60 pieces of information, while millions of other signals are being registered and processed beyond conscious awareness. In other words, only a tiny fraction of the information reaching the human system ever becomes part of conscious awareness. Well under 1/100% of the signals your nervous system is processing. Which means that almost everything happening around you right now is already outside your awareness. This is not a flaw in the human system. It is the very mechanism that allows perception to function at all. If the human system attempted to consciously process every signal arriving from the environment at once, the mind would simply stop functioning in any organized way. Every sound, movement, color, sensation, memory, and emotional signal would arrive at the same time with equal intensity, and the brain would have no way to organize or respond to any of it. The system would not be able to think. It would not be able to decide. It would not be able to act. So, the nervous system performs an essential task. It filters reality. It continually selects what rises into awareness and what remains in the background. This means something very important. What we experience is not simply determined by what exists in the world around us. It is shaped by what the human system is able to recognize, and by how it is organized to recognize it. Within that perceptual bandwidth, there is also enormous variation. Different people perceive different aspects of the same environment more strongly than others. Some people have an extremely refined sense of smell. Others barely notice scent at all. Some people hear tiny shifts in sound or tone that others would miss completely. Some people are highly sensitive to emotional patterns in a room. They immediately sense tension, calm, excitement, or unease long before anything is spoken. What is sometimes described as intuition, empathy, or even psychic sensitivity is often simply the human system detecting patterns of emotional and behavioral information that another person's awareness does not prioritize. The information is present, but perception varies. The same is true for taste. One person may enjoy a particular food without hesitation, while another experiences an immediate and powerful aversion or physical reaction to it. Each human nervous system emphasizes slightly different parts of the enormous informational field surrounding us. And a simple, everyday example makes this easier to see. Think about your dog when it stops to investigate where another dog has been. To us, it looks like it is simply smelling something unpleasant and taking far too long about it. But what the dog is actually doing is reading a pattern of information. Within that scent are signals about identity, movement, emotional state, and what has happened in that space. The information is there. The difference lies in what the instrument of perception is able to recognize. And in exactly the same way, the human nervous system is constantly moving through a world filled with patterns it simply does not yet know how to recognize. Human perception works in a similar way. We do not perceive everything that exists in the environment. We perceive the portion that our system is organized to recognize. And attention plays a powerful role in shaping that recognition. When attention becomes focused on something, a possibility, a concern, a direction, or a goal, the pathways of perception begin to reorganize. Signals connected to that focus begin to rise into awareness. Opportunities that were previously invisible become noticeable. Conversations, ideas, and connections that were always present suddenly become clear. What has changed is the instrument of perception itself. Your focus reshapes how the human system filters the enormous stream of information surrounding you. And it is within this vast, unseen stream of information that patterns of perception, emotion, and response begin to organize themselves. Over time, these patterns stabilize. They form coherence. Emotions play a powerful role in this process. Emotions do not remain sealed inside the mind. They move through the entire human system and influence how the world is perceived and interpreted. Emotional states shape attention, interpretation, behavior, and relational interaction. They become part of the larger meaning field through which a person experiences reality. Beliefs also play a powerful role in this filtering process. Two people with completely different core beliefs can witness the exact same situation and interpret it in entirely different ways. The event itself has not changed, but each person's perception is filtered through the belief patterns already organizing their inner system, and those patterns shape the meaning that emerges. And here, an important clarification appears. We are not separate from reality, sending signals out to attract things back. We are already inside the same field of life, and the patterns within us interact with the patterns around us, shaping what becomes possible. This leads to an important turning point in how people began explaining these patterns. Over time, as people explored how inner states influence experience, one particular interpretation emerged. Along came what is now widely known as the law of attraction. Within modern spiritual culture, it came to be seen as almost a foundational principle, a cornerstone teaching that many people encounter early in their spiritual exploration. The idea that thoughts and emotions attract matching experiences offered a simple explanation for how inner life influences outer events. Because the concept was easy to communicate and deeply appealing, it spread rapidly through books, seminars, coaching systems, and personal development industries. Over time, it also became a significant commercial marketplace, with entire industries forming around the promise of learning how to attract the life one desires. The law of attraction came to be understood as the mechanism through which life responds to thought and emotion, because it reflects an interpretation, a perception of one aspect within a much larger field through which experience unfolds. It was not an illusion. It was a partial description of a much larger organizing process. And there is truth within that observation. Our inner life does influence what unfolds around us. But the mechanism is not simply attraction. The deeper organizing principle beneath these patterns is coherence. Imagine a building. A building can only support what its structure allows. The foundation, beams, and load-bearing walls determine what can exist inside it. You cannot place a swimming pool on the second floor of a house if the structure cannot support that weight. You may visualize it clearly. You may believe in it completely. But if the underlying framework cannot hold it, it will never appear there. Not because the universe denied the request, but because the structure itself cannot support it. Human lives function in a similar way. Each life is an architecture formed from interacting patterns, beliefs, emotional regulation, nervous system responses, habits, behaviors, relationships, environments, and opportunities. Together, these elements form a coherent system. Beliefs influence emotional responses. Emotional responses influence behavior. Behavior shapes relationships and environments. Relationships and environments reinforce or challenge existing beliefs. Over time, these layers stabilize into patterns that shape what becomes possible. Experiences arise through the coherence of those patterns. When people say reality is responding to them, what is actually changing is the structure through which reality is being experienced. And here, the deeper principle becomes clear. Life does not organize itself around attraction. Life organizes itself around coherence. The patterns that stabilize within a person's system shape the patterns that can stabilize around them. If the patterns shift, the structure shifts. And when the structure shifts, different experiences become possible. This perspective also resolves a troubling implication that sometimes appears within the law of attraction framework. The idea that if someone experiences hardship or difficulty, they must have attracted it through their thoughts. Life is far more complex than that. People inherit environments, cultures, histories, and circumstances long before they have conscious influence over their beliefs or emotional patterns. A life system forms through many interacting layers. From a coherence perspective, the question is not, what did this person attract? The deeper question becomes, what patterns are currently shaping the system of this life? And if those patterns evolve, if beliefs shift, emotional awareness deepens, behaviors change, and environments transform, the architecture of the life system begins to reorganize. When the architecture changes, life changes. Not through attraction, through coherence. And perhaps the deeper truth is simpler than any method or technique suggests. We are not standing outside reality, attempting to attract the life we want. We are already within the field through which experience takes form. The patterns within us participate in the patterns around us, and together they shape what becomes possible. Shift the coherence of the system, and the range of experiences the system can support begins to change. Robin Walton, Coherence Field Transmission. Beyond the law of attraction,